The following program is a Town of Colonie television production of the William K. Sanford Town Library.
Good morning. I'm Frank DeSorbo. I'm the president of Patriot Flights Incorporated. The Colonie Library has offered us, and they've been so gracious to give us time to put on programs entitled Patriot Flight Honors Veterans. We have, this is our second or third showing, I believe it is, and Patriot Flight is an organization that brings veterans down to Washington, D.C. We've been in existence since 2007. Today we're going to share some time and some discussions with Jim Pratt. He's the president General Manager of Jezreel International, and he will talk about his organization. Also, we have Dianna Rios from the Red Cross Services for Armed Forces. And we're going to get a little discussion going and understand what they do. Patriot Flight was started in 2007, as I mentioned before. We have had 13 successful flights, 2 this year, in which we've taken almost 100 veterans, primarily World War II veterans, to Washington, D.C. We expect to continue next spring. Primarily, we go in the spring and the fall. At this point, I'd like to start the discussion with Jim.
Good morning, Frank. How are you this morning?
Very good. Yourself?
Blessed.
Thank you so much. Tell us about yourself and your program.
Frank, we are a 501c3 non-for-profit humanitarian aid group, Jezreel. Jezreel's been in existence since 1996. Our organization has been really supporting the downtrodden, the poor, the needy throughout the nations, over 40 different nations around the world. We've shipped to every place under the sun with anything that you can imagine that you might see in a Walmart, a Home Depot, a CVS, that type of stuff. Recently, the CEO of Jezreel International got together and decided that he wanted to do something special for the veterans. We had, of course, the veterans luncheon, the veterans breakfast. We had many people there for seeing what it was all about, seeing what we could give away, what we could do. But the CEO, Barry Feynman, determined that we need to do something more permanent for the veterans. We put together a thing called the Veterans Miracle Center. And the Veterans Miracle Center will be opening, we're actually going to have a grand opening, I believe, on the 14th of October. And we'll be having folks come in, a ribbon cutting type thing. And what's going to happen is this, Frank, is that the veteran is going to be vetted by organizations like yourself or like the American Legion, VFW, Red Cross, Veterans Hospital. And we're going to determine what they have need of. They're going to fill out what we call maybe like a dream sheet or request sheet for their needs. They're going to put on there the information that they need. They're going to get a voucher from you. You're going to call us. They're going to say, we have a voucher, we have a need. They're going to come in by appointment into a store. We're in the process of putting that store together right now. We're probably about 3/4 of the way through putting this together. And these vets will come in and they'll get anything they need, anything that we have at that time, because our shipments change on a regular basis. We may have toiletries, we may have paper goods, we may have furniture, we may have clothing, whatever. So that stuff is what we're going to be able to help the vet with. The VMC Center is all free. And a lot of vets don't even understand it. We're trying to explain it to them now. They're saying, well, Jimmy, what do you mean? Do we pay? No, there's no pay. There's no cost, there's no charge. Okay? As long as you have a voucher and you're a vet, we're going to be there for the vet.
That is a very nice program you have there. And I will say to you that I hope it's very successful, from the veterans that are currently coming home now to the ones that I primarily deal with are World War II veterans.
Yeah.
And we're going to cover the gamut for all the veterans in between. One of the things that Patriot Flight promotes is that we're a community of veterans and patriots. So all the patriots are going to help support your program. Dianna does something at the Red Cross. What is it you do? And how does your program fit in?
I'm the regional representative for service to the armed forces for the American Red Cross. The American Red Cross actually started on the battlefields. We're over 100 years old, but we're kind of the quiet entity. We have been kind of moving along. We handle all emergency communications for our military members. So if you're deployed and your family member has an emergency, you can still call the 1-800 number for the Red Cross and get help. We have 7 caseworkers in our area, and we work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So we are always on call. We are always there for the veteran. That is one of our biggest programs that we have is our service member emergency communications. We also support military events. We support community events that support the military. This past Saturday, we had 5 events all across the region. So that's what our volunteers do. If the military is having a family day and they need support, we go out to that. Patriot Flights had an event. We sent volunteers to that. We were down at Spirit of America at the Times Union Center. So we really, really rely on our volunteers. So if you are out there and you are interested in volunteering and really being able to get a broad range, a broad sense of what we do for our military families and our veterans, certainly call the Red Cross, go to redcross.org. You can look up volunteer opportunities. We do a couple of very big programs over the year, one in which we will now be able to do year-round with the Veterans Miracle Center that is called Totes of Hope. Totes of Hope is a way for community members to donate hygiene product. So they can donate hygiene product and we make care kits out of them. So if we have a veteran who is struggling and they just kind of need some help getting by, we can provide them a bag of hygiene product. If we have a veteran who we find is living in his car and no way to care for him, we will get him hygiene product, we will get him emergency blankets, and we will try to get him or her into a shelter. So, those are some of the programs that we do. We have a very strong program at the VA hospital. We cover 3 hospitals in our region, the Stratton VA Medical Center, and there are 2 facilities out in the Poughkeepsie area, the Montrose facility and Castle Point. We have a very strong program called No Veteran Alone. This is a hospice program. So it does take a very special volunteer, and they go through some very special training. But that is a program we're very proud of. We have a lot of veterans who unfortunately are alone at the end of life, and we want them to have a companion, somebody to be with them and visit them and make sure they know they're not alone and that their communities do appreciate their service. So that, there's such a gamut of things that we do for the military. Emergency communications is the one that I think most people are aware of, but there are so many other things that we can do.
Thank you, Dianna. As you were talking, one of the things that I find is that the veterans, there a lot of times are out there, but somehow, how do we reach them? How do we reach them? I know the social media is out there, but maybe I deal with the older veterans, but aren't necessarily into that social media. How do you really, as Dianna said, a lot of different organizations, but yeah. I would have to say, how do you expect to reach some of these people?
No, it's true, Frank. It's interesting because my era, when I say my area, I did 2 tours in Vietnam. Guys who come back from Vietnam kind of went into the woodwork a little bit. We weren't joiners. When we came home, we said enough is enough. We didn't want to join anything. Okay, so a lot of those guys now, we're finding out that when I approach them with this, I say, "Are you a part of a VFW, American Legion?" Or, "No, Jim, we're not a part of anything." And a lot of them, family and friends, don't even know that they were in the military. So reaching out to them is a real task right now. And you have a breakfast, I believe, on Friday mornings for your flight, where you have people meeting at the diner. That's a great area. I mean, we get into these things where we meet with smaller groups, the word gets out. Because a lot of these guys, like you said, Frank, they're not into the social media. They don't even know computers, a lot of them. They like me, I go to my granddaughter and say, "Hey, help me out here, would you?" So that's what it's all about. Once we get the word out with these guys come in, they walk through our facility, and we have a facility the size of a football field. Huge, just loaded from one end to another, and they walk through and they go, "Wow, look at this. This is stuff we can have." More importantly, we have a situation where we need sorters all the time. We need people to separate and sort stuff as it comes in. So a lot of these veterans groups now are starting to join up and come in and work for us. They'll come in as volunteers and work like 6 to 8 hours. We serve a great lunch. We have a good time. There's no lifting, no heavy pushing. It's basically just separating packages, resorting, getting it ready to ship out, or getting it ready to come into the VMC Center. So reaching out to them is a real, I think all of us are trying to figure out a better way to do that. You know?
As you mentioned, we do put on Friday mornings at the Gateway Diner. It's called TGIV. Thank God it's veterans.
Yes.
It's like a veterans coffee club.
Yes.
We have access to a TV, DVD, old VHS. Maybe if you've got one, we'll schedule something, we'll promote it.
Yeah.
Come on down, put on a little speech.
Yeah.
Usually, we get some regulars, but if we put on a program, it has a tendency to bring more people. Dianna was there for a couple of them.
Absolutely.
And definitely I plan on doing. I got a little break in the action because we don't expect another flight until next spring. One of the things you're talking about, and I can relate to, is I do have two brothers who are in Vietnam.
Yeah.
And they're exactly what you said. They don't belong to nothing. Yeah, they can go on the computer, they get to read the newspapers.
That's right.
But they basically,
yeah.
that was a time gone by 50 years ago.
It's true.
And I say, and I'm going to turn to Dianne because I think all the things that you do is how do you reach the ones that don't get the newspaper, don't go on the computer, and maybe is just struggling to get by, and how they communicate.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we try to go out to as many public community events as we can. And we're just kind of that quiet. They know the Red Cross. Anyone who has served in the military knows, and I know Jim has a great story about his service and the Red Cross. So it's nice that we have that history, that we're trusted to them. There's a confidence that comes with them sharing with the Red Cross. We had a Vietnam veteran who called our emergency communication line. Now that phone number is usually used for active duty families. We were thrilled that he remembered the number and he called us because he was sitting on his steps, he was being evicted, and he didn't know who else to call. And these are stories that we can't usually share. Everything is very confidential. The really nice thing about a couple of the stories that we have a Vietnam veteran who came back around after getting some help from the Red Cross, and he's a volunteer now.
Yeah.
Because they just need to know someone does care and that someone does appreciate their service. There was such negativity when they came home, and it really is the toughest veteran group to reach and to gain trust.
I can relate to the fact that I'm around a lot of World War II veterans, and the sympathy that they offer to the Vietnam vets.
Yeah.
They all say, we came home, we didn't necessarily expect the parades or anything else. The big thing they went back to was work. And yet when they seen what happened to the Vietnam veterans, and especially if you really think of it, because some of them expressed this to me, it was their children. And so they really have that sensitivity about that whole era.
Yeah.
And I'd be proud to say the Patriot flight has taken World War II and Korea, and soon to take the Vietnam vets. So we expect to be around, and we expect to cover those 3 years. They definitely deserve it. I think they've been the leaders for us. And whatever we can do in Patriot flight to interact with you, and as you see, the things that we're trying to do within the community.
Absolutely.
And I was up to Jim's place a couple times. I was there back in December, I think, when you had your first presentation.
That's right, you did a first presentation. It's interesting, Frank, because you touched on that a little bit. When I come home from Vietnam, after being away all that time, landed in Washington, state of Washington, came in, we got off the flight looking at people holding up signs, baby killers and tossing eggs at them. Nobody knew what was going on. We weren't privy to what was happening back here. We were just over there. So a lot of us, when we got out, just got rid of our uniforms, got rid of any identification. People said to me, my grandkids said, "Pop, didn't you keep anything?" I said, "No, I didn't want to keep anything. I wanted to disassociate myself from it altogether." And at that time coming home, 68, 69, that era was, I got into a whole different business, restaurants and bars and the drug scene. The whole thing was like so crazy then. And it was a mishmash of a lot of veterans who were just didn't know how to act, whether they were ashamed, whether they were proud, whatever. So here we are evolving to this state now where we're saying to these veterans, hey, welcome home now. Hey, we got something for you now.
Right.
And a lot of these, I have a Marine who was a decorated Marine. He had no idea of the benefits he had. And we got talking about it one day, and he said, "Jimmy, what are you talking about?" And I took him to the VA, and I explained to him some of the stuff about what the Red Cross does. I talked about what we do. Long and short of it is, he went to the VA, found out he had all these benefits he didn't even know about. Didn't even, and there's guys there that are getting benefits that, weren't even in the situation this man was in. So it's there. That's why I'm so excited being a veteran myself, watching the VMC Center come together and working with Diane and Dianna, knowing what they're doing with their thing. And I want to clarify something. Diane said Red Cross has been around for 100 years. Not Diane. She hasn't been there, just so you know.
Not quite.
Okay, just so you know. But these girls are absolutely team players. Anything that we have going on, first phone call is, hey girls, what do we got? Or they call me, hey Jim, we're coming over to do this. We recently did a Suit for Success.
Fantastic.
That was an absolute home run. We got over 1,500 brand new suits for our veterans. By the way, we still have a lot left, okay? Over 1,500 suits. And we had a day of Suit for Success where we had the vets come in, we had racks lined up, we had everything there, suits hanging up, and the vets came in and took a suit and got what they wanted. And these girls were acting as haberdashers. they were lining up the vets, they were trying to put suits on them. No, that's the wrong size. And of course, some of the old vets, like our friend Mr. Haggerty, Jim Haggerty, okay? Jim Haggerty says, we can't sell the suits, but we can certainly charge them for the tailoring. So, something like that when the vets came in, Frank, and they seen, wow, look at this, is free for us, and we rolled that same thing over into the stand down at the Elks in Colonie.
Yeah.
And again, the Red Cross working hand in glove with us, and so many other organizations. We want to group those organizations together. And if people are listening today to this program here, they need to know, just drop a dime. Give us a call. We're there. Your organization, her organization, doesn't matter. There's no lead here. It's just let's pull it together to do for our vets.
I will say to you, I've expressed, and I did some promotion for you back in the spring more so, got very busy.
Yes.
It's next go around.
Yes.
When I talk to some of the World War II vets, they never heard of such a thing.
Yeah.
You got to understand, their lifestyle was, and now at the tail end, in the twilight of their years sometimes, they don't think they need anything.
Yeah.
And yet, the saddest thing that I have found with them, when it's a long winter and they're home alone, or days are long because the night comes quick.
That's right.
And yet, I can say to you, it's really great being around you people, because at times certain things just will pop up.
That's true.
And I can then turn around and say, well, let me look into this. Let me look into that.
That's true.
And I really appreciate I work with Diane behind the scenes with Patriot Flight on something, and it's something, if it comes up, I know I can turn to somebody.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what I really want to try and get to the vets. If you need something, here's some people you can turn to.
Absolutely, and we found that by just changing some of the wording on some of the paperwork that the organizations have, the vets, if it says, are you a veteran, some of them say no.
Yeah.
I didn't serve 20 years, I'm not a veteran.
That's
true.
Retired. Yeah.
So we changed that wording. Now it just says, have you ever served in the United States military? Because that was a big problem, getting them to identify themselves. Because they did serve our country. They do deserve any services that we can provide to them. It's not about having served 20 years.
Right.
If you served 90 days, you served,
That's right.
Being a sports person, after you've been in the football or baseball 5 years, you're a veteran.
That's right.
I have a lot of fun with the World War II guys.
Oh, yeah.
They have some sense of humor. So does the Korean guys.
Oh, yeah.
And I am a Vietnam era guy, although I'm not a veteran.
Yeah.
Have two brothers, and
exactly.
I loosen them up. And I think that's really important. And I think the fact that the kind of work you do, something I have in common with you, Jim, we are a 501c2.
Yes.
And one of the things, we give away something.
Sure.
We give away a free flight to the
That's
veterans.
right. That's exactly
so
right. Yeah.
we're in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
Hey, by the way, you don't need the toiletries. How about a flight to a ball?
Yeah, exactly.
And we're looking to open up the kinds of things we can do.
That's right.
That's going to be an organizational thing.
Right.
The fact that last week when we were down to the TU Center with the Spirit of America,
Yes.
the veterans I brought down really raised the spirit
That was
of America.
excellent.
Yes, they
They were
did.
phenomenal, and the kinds of activities that the two-star general did to two of those guys.
Yeah.
I seen those two men a few days later at a person's 90th birthday party. And boy, I asked them if they brought the shield with them, which is a challenge.
Yes,
It's really
yes.
fancy.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't bring that out. That came from a two-star general.
Yeah.
These guys are something at 90.
Yeah.
Well, as a matter of fact, it was 90, 91 and 93. And I'll tell you, they're sharp as they come. And for me to say, look, there's things out there for you people. One of them already knows because he did something which has to do with getting aid to go into assisted living homes. Okay, that whole program that exists.
Yes.
So I think what you do is phenomenal, and I think we could explore and expand it to every possibility. Although I kind of say have 2 flights a year, we want to do things all year long.
Yeah.
We had our first reunion dinner back at the end of August, a reunion dinner.
Yeah.
The 50 veterans that went in May, we brought them in for a dinner, put on a video. They just like to get together again. We plan on doing those kinds of things.
Yeah.
We plan on, like I said, the TGIV. I'll be honest with you, I'm wide open to all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Because I think over time, at least with the whole scenario of Korea, Vietnam, and World War II, everybody tells me I'm racing the clock. And you people are really doing what's best. That really brings it to the top what's happening to the young kids.
Well, the main thing, Frank, is we got to pull together.
Yep.
All the organizations have to pull together.
Right.
It's not about what we do, what you do with it. It's pull together. Let's do it for the vet. And the thing is this, when you're talking about our organization, there's guys out there that think, well, that's really for the needy. That's really for the... No. There's guys that are just making it at the end of the month. They're just barely making it, okay? And they need products. And if they were getting products, again, toiletries, paper, Kleenex, anything that you can imagine, if they're getting that sort of stuff, it takes some of the burden off them.
It does.
And they got to understand, because this is what always intrigues me about veterans, real veterans, okay? Real veterans are not going to ask for anything.
Right.
That's what I deal with.
They're not going to ask
That's exactly
for anything.
what the vet guy-
Most of them are not even going to admit they're veterans, okay? They're just going to say, how you doing? End of story. I can tell a vet a mile away, a real vet, a mile away, okay? And these guys are guys that we need to reach out and touch. We need to encourage them. As I told you last night, I'm sitting at the diner, and the same group sits there every week when I get done at night. And I come in, hey, how you doing? Someone call me Sarge. Someone go, how you doing? And I say, what's up, guys? When you guys coming up to see me? Well, we don't really need anything. Well, why don't you just come up and hang around? Can we do that? Absolutely. Absolutely. If you have people on your flight, Frank, that want to come up, just hang out.
Yeah.
Even if they can't stand. I got veterans that come in wheelchairs.
Yes.
We put them under a table and they sort stuff in a wheelchair. And they have a great time. Because we grab a pizza, wings, sometimes we have great lunch. I mean, good stuff like that.
What about a card game?
It's good. No card game. No card game.
They love that.
I bet.
And they got to check the flask at the door. Other than that, we get through it with these guys, and they see the camaraderie. They love coming back. The Gold Star mothers. I'm not just talking about guys now. I'm talking about all veterans. Okay.
Sure.
The moms come. The children come. Groups come. Banks, organizations come, because they all want to do something. They want to get involved. They want to get themselves involved with the vet.
The camaraderie that I see among the vets, and I've kind of branched over that I'm not a vet.
Yeah.
When I'm around them, the camaraderie when they're around themselves, that's why I kid you about a card game.
Oh, yeah.
Let me tell you. I can tell you a story about...
We can't do that one on TV. I'll
No,
talk to you afterwards.
no, but we're not talking even... We'll play with chips. Just,
Yeah.
they love the competitiveness, some of them.
Oh,
but,
yeah.
I will say to you, I have a buddy that's a World War II Normandy, a Battle of St. Lo, Battle of the Bulge, or Magen Bridge. When I started in 2011, and that's when you've come to a couple of the events for the D-Day, he said to me, and it kind of relates to just what you were saying, he says, what are you doing this? It takes a lot of time, it's a lot of effort. And he didn't want me, he pretty much was saying, is it worth it? Which you said, does anybody really care? When you're in your late 80s and they've lived their life, and sometimes they don't see this stuff, they go, does anybody really care? And you know what I eventually had to get to him with? I eventually said to him, do you think I'm doing it for you? Do you think I'm doing it for me? No, I'm doing it for my son, Mike, and my grandchildren, because he knows Mike and my grandchildren.
Yes.
It kind of changed the way he was, because that's I think the fabric of their character. As long as they think somebody else is going to appreciate it. I've seen them where they've interacted with each other. And I tell you, it's just worth what you. I'd love to see 3 of them sorting stuff and hear the conversation. Put a mic under the table. I mean, some of this stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's
really funny.
It is classic. And I will say to you, that whole concept of coming together has got to be great. And working with organizations, I look forward to it myself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Frank, it's interesting. My coming from a family of 13. My older brothers were in the invasion of Normandy before I was born. Okay, I'm born in 45, right? So these guys were already there and already in the thick of it. And coming home, you could see the camaraderie with these guys. You could see what was going on. And my older brother always used to laugh, and he'd said, "You know the thing that drives me crazy?" And I said, "What?" He said, "Veterans Day." I said, "What about it?" He said, "Well, Veterans Day is a day everybody has off." I said, "Yeah." He said, "You ever notice that most of the veterans are working on Veterans Day because they own their own businesses. They know how to get things done. Most of the vets are actually working. So you got all these people, state working, God bless them, all these different organizations. Everybody just got the day off. Why don't we have a real Veterans Day where the only guy gets the day off is the veteran?" And I used to laugh at him. I said, "Can you imagine something like that?"
Sure.
Couldn't happen.
Right, it couldn't happen. We wouldn't be able to function.
Yeah.
You know, that would be the truth. There's so many of them out there, and they come in all different approaches to life. I have found that to be. I have found one of the interesting things I like to do when you talk to a 90-year-old, and I did this to him. I says, "I know you had it tough, the Depression years, the war years, but then you lived 60 years after. You lived a life. Tell us, what did you do? What were you interested in? What do you do now?" I mean, I hear some of the most interesting stories, and one of the things you said earlier, they don't need anything, but deep down inside, when I hear a veteran has a $20,000 or $25,000 pension, I sit there and go, you say you don't need anything, but you're getting by.
How does he make it? That's right.
Barely.
How does he make it?
Yeah, and I've been around the ones that live by themselves. More so, a lot of them are there with the sickly wife, and then naturally they're ones that are in the assisted living. Right now, currently, I deal with a couple of Marines that live in an assisted living around the corner from my house in Delmar. Very fascinating people, and all the services that pop up. And I'm looking, naturally, I'm going to learn more about the Red Cross. I have to say, all the different things you do. I know you've been in the background for me,
Absolutely.
and you've always been there, and it seems like I'm looking forward to more of that.
That's good. I mean, we just had a conversation this morning. We have a 95-year-old World War II veteran, a Red Cross veteran, but she deployed with the troops. So we respect her as a veteran. She served our country. So we've had a tough week because she was moved from a living facility to a nursing home. And it's just really letting her know that we are still here. She calls us the Red Cross ladies. So that's part of our mission as well. Make sure she knows that throughout end of life, we will be there every day, just like she was for everyone else her whole life. And she came from an affluent family. I mean, she has some amazing stories. She served in World War II. She was Jewish and was not aware when she deployed with the military that the Holocaust was happening. And she will tell you a story about someone who reached out their arm to her in Germany, and the writing was there. And that's when it kind of dawned on her what she had gotten herself involved in. And her stories are amazing, so we try to preserve those and treasure those and carry on her legacy for her. It's stuff like that people don't know. They don't know.
And I call ourselves the reminders. We have to remind people, because one of the biggest things is maybe because of what I do is more, doing recognition. I started out with a recognition program. And let's not forget, I always said there's more than enough history to go around. Why I selected Normandy, I wish somebody picked the island hoppers in the Marines. I really do. I wish somebody picked the Navy in Midway. But I picked the Normandy. I went to a Normandy invasion reenactment in August. My brother was over there actually in Normandy here this past June for the 70th anniversary. We've got a contact over in Normandy called D-Day Revisited, the same title I use. I will say to you that no matter what you do for veterans, no matter what you do, you're doing something, and as opposed to letting them think that nobody cares.
Absolutely.
And I definitely stress that. I see all the different organizations out there, and I'm sitting there going, how can we relate and work with them and do what we got to do? And I think just the fact that we're doing this is a movement.
Oh, absolutely.
And I'm so proud to be around people like yourselves. Why I can't unring the bell. I kind of wish I'm retired now. I've been retired. I'm lucky. I'm fortunate. I've been retired quite a few years. And I wish I had done some things earlier, but I also know what it's like when you got a working life.
That's right.
You have a working life and a wife and everything,
That's right.
kids and grandkids
That's right.
and stuff like that. And so I'm always saying, jump on board.
That's
you got
right.
time, jump on board.
That's right.
And I see what you're talking about. I may be up there someday to sort, not sort the cards, but
Sort the product. You know, Frank, it's interesting. As a young kid, I used to watch my dad reading the obits. He'd read the obituaries, and I'd say to him, Pop, what are you doing? Yep. Just want to see if I made it today. And he'd just keep going through. And we used to laugh at that. Yeah. But here I am now, my father's age, and I read the obits.
Oh.
And I get in the obits. And when I see something with the military in it, I read it. I don't know who they are, but I love to read it. And I find myself saying this. My wife gets a laugh at this. I find myself saying, gee, I wish I knew this guy. Because his story is there.
Yes.
His story is there. Decorated, World War II, what, you know, the whole thing is there. And I said, gee, I wish I knew that guy, you know? And yet there's so many guys out there like that. So many guys from World War II, so many guys from Korea, and now again an abundance of guys who made it through, who didn't pass on with the Agent Orange from my era, you know? And hearing their stories is just, it's interesting. And some people, it's funny, can watch the stuff that's on TV. For me, it's funny, I can watch World War II, I can watch World War I, I can watch the Civil War, any of those. Vietnam, I've never seen a movie on Vietnam. Maybe I'm just an oddball. I don't want nothing to do with it. I don't want to look back. You know what I'm saying? But I want the guys who were there to look forward and see what we got now, what we got to help them with. You know, that we're here for them. That whatever they have need of is just making a phone call. Red Cross, Patriot Flight, Veterans Miracle Center, all the different groups out there. We get calls every day from different groups. Just asking, Jim, can you do this? Can you do this? I got some people from Ulster County called yesterday and said, well, we need some beds. We need some, for the Battle Buddy centers that Jim Haggerty's putting together. They need some beds. They said, Jim, do you have this? Yeah. You do? Yeah. How much? I said, they're free. What do we do? I said, you come up and get them. I don't deliver.
Yeah.
Right? So these guys are laughing. They said, can we come tomorrow? In fact, I got one of the guys coming at 12 o'clock today. He said, you're kidding. I could just bring a truck. I said, yeah. That's what it's all about. And I said, from that point on, you're going to be one of the groups that are going to vet the vets down there. You're going to be checking these other guys saying, hey, I found a group. Okay? And the group is there for the vet. And we want to make sure that the vet has a need. This is not just a, hey, come on and load up the trunk of your car. That's not what it's about. It's remember your brothers, your brothers in arms. Remember them, okay? So let's help each other. Let's meet. If you need this, it's yours. If you don't need it, you say, oh, I'd love to have one. Come on. Move on.
Right.
You know, let somebody else be blessed with it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what we're coming to here, you know?
I look forward to interacting with you, working with you, sharing some of the stories, maybe I'll get some. I find wherever we bring out the World War II guys, one of the nicest things you'll see is the Iraqi veterans, Afghan veterans.
Yes.
I took 3 veterans up to the Saratoga Military Museum.
Yeah.
And there was I have a Marine, okay, an Army guy, and a Navy guy. The Army and Navy guy, Normandy, the Marine is Iwo Jima, and the Marine is a little outspoken about the Army. And I always wondered how they were going to be. Well, the show they went to see was all about the women in the military. And you want to see that Marine when they made some remarks about how the women in the military, you know, with their fingernails and hair and everything else. Sure. You want to see the look on his face. And I'll tell you, even the women notice it. But you want to see the interaction afterwards between them. It was almost like, it really was different, but they all come together. They were so happy between, I don't know who was more attracted to who, whether the men were, the women or the veterans. And that's why I say what you do up there, and I've been there, up there to your warehouse and everything else, I will just bring them up so that they believe that it exists. You know, because a lot of these World War II people, and I kind of sensitive because we're racing the clock. You know, although we've had over, I think between the 2 flights, we've had close to 92 World War II people.
Sure.
And I'm really proud to be around them. Even the Korean guys. The Korean guys lit up when they found out we were taking them. Because, you know, there was a forgotten war. We're not going to forget you. And I think it's part of an education of getting that out to them and all the other people. My one brother was in Vietnam in the infantry. I've still got his letters at home. also got the letters from a Marine who I was a friend with, and I don't bring them out. I haven't looked at them in years, and yet they're going to be there.
Oh, yeah.
Someday, because one of the things you were talking about, the obits, and I was just talking to my brother. I had two brothers in Vietnam. One of them was on a base in Saigon, and office job, 8, 9, 10 hours a day. My other brother sleeping in chicken coops.
Yeah.
My older brother says when he looks at the obits, you know what he thought? He says, it's great what you described. He says, but you ever read the ones where it just says, served in World War II?
Yes.
And all of a sudden
That's
you go, what is lost there? It's lost and gone,
You're right. You're right.
And yet I almost want to say, you all had something to do. You all did your duty. Wherever you were assigned, you went. And I know they all know about the Red Cross.
Absolutely.
They all know about the Red Cross.
Yeah, and we have a new program now for returning veterans that's called Reconnection Workshops. We're very proud of it. We did 22 workshops last year. I think we served 86 veterans. And it's a class that's taught totally free. Our hope is to bring them to the Veterans Miracle Center once they're opened. We've been doing them in places where the veteran can trust. And then they can come in and talk about things like coping, coping with what's happened, grief and loss. It's a different loss. Maybe they didn't lose a limb, but they lost a friend. And it's just something that's very private to them. And then when they come back, they're not going to go to their commander and say, hey, that was tough. They're not going to do it.
That's right.
It's the family that's dealing with that residual effect. And,
That's right.
when my husband came home to the world, everything looked fine. And I can tell you, for 4 years, it was very difficult. Reacclimation, trying to transition back into the community. We're not a big base community here. So trying to find other military members that you served with. Thank goodness for the internet in this day and age, because they can talk to each other, online. There's something that's missing when you don't have the human contact. Right. And we really firmly believe that. And
Yes.
Reconnection Workshops have been vital in helping them have a safe place to go. We also started something, yoga for veterans, and it's a different form of yoga. It's called Yoga Nidra. We do it once a month on Saturdays at the Red Cross. Again, totally free. We don't charge for any of these services. We had 3 veterans that came last month, and they said it was the best thing that they had done, because again, now here's something that we know for their mental well-being and their physical well-being. Studies show yoga is the great thing to do. But they're not going to go to their buddies and say, hey, let's go to yoga.
That's right.
Can you see Jim at yoga?
Yeah.
I can see the two of you at yoga.
I'm looking for something to eat.
I'm looking to deal some
Exactly.
cards.
Yeah, really.
Sit around and
But it
Fill out
gives
the
them
cards
some
and talk.
breathing techniques. So if they're having anxiety, it teaches them how they can breathe through that and bring themselves down from that high point. So there's some really great new programs that the Red Cross is offering, because we are trying to transition with our new returning veterans. Iraq, Afghanistan, it's a different war. So those are things that, again, we're really trying to get the word out. We want to do this with other veterans organizations. We're hoping to start peer-to-peer, where your veterans from Patriot flights can then be paired with some of these veterans that we're serving in Reconnection, even if they came to a Reconnection and just kind of shared with them. We had an experience with a Vietnam veteran who was sharing with an Iraq veteran. I think, Dianne, you were in the room, and it was amazing. The whole room just went quiet, because they were able to share something that we couldn't.
Yeah.
And they were able to understand each
Yeah,
other's
there's a
stories.
connection.
There was a
there's-
connection. So Reconnection can be very powerful. And you'll see as we move forward over the next year, we're really going to be pushing for locations to host it, and to invite veterans to come out. We only need 3 veterans in the room for it to happen. You certainly can't do it with
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
3 seems to be the magic number, and we never go above 10. So that's something else you can help get the word out about if
Yeah.
you,
I know that
have a group.
The small groups.
Oh, yeah, and
Small groups,
I
yeah.
have found with the World War II guys, really, I asked a few of them, really within the last few months,
Yeah.
a big question: how come you never spoke about it? You get a wide range of answers.
Yeah, you
There
do.
were 3 of them I asked, and I tell you, answers you probably have never heard before. And yet, sitting there with an Iraqi veteran, Afghan, one of the things these veterans have said to me, I did my 2-3 years and it was over with.
Yeah.
These guys, over, back, and they are kind of like surprised by that. And it'd be nice to hear them get together, share
Absolutely.
some stuff, and realize that what happened 70 years ago and what happened maybe 7 months ago doesn't vary too much.
No, no.
And I think it'd be good therapy.
Yeah.
for them.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And it's interesting because the small groups are just really special because a lot of guys won't open up in a big forum.
Right.
But they'll sit one-on-one over a cup of coffee and just pour out their life. And, Frank, I want to share this too, that, you said you're not a veteran, but, our CEO, Barry Feynman, not a veteran either.
Right.
But, brother, he has a heart. This is his vision, his desire. He has a heart for the veterans that's just unbelievable. And he basically put this whole thing together for the Veterans Miracle Center. And like you, and like people like Melody Burns, and people like Jim Haggerty, and people like, some of the people not even attached to the military. But look what you guys are doing to make this thing happen. That's what it's all about. People got to look past, was I a veteran? I don't care if you're a veteran or not. This is our country. Right. These are our kids. These are our boys, our girls, our daughters, our sons, our grandchildren. We got to pull together. We got to make this thing happen, and the way we do it is we join hands together. I don't want to hear about your little empire and her little empire and his little thing, and this is our group. Stop. Right. Stop. Okay? Let's just pull together and say, listen, the common goal is let's get these guys who are hurting some help.
Absolutely.
Let's get them blessed. Let's get them involved. Let's get them cooking a little bit so they're not isolationists. I mean, a lot of the guys that come home with me climbed immediately into a bottle, into drugs, that was the era we were in. And then became isolationists and just stayed into the woodwork, and had nothing to do with anything. So this whole thing that we're putting together here is it's a blessing. It's a blessing. And I want to applaud people like you guys and Barry, because in Melody, you guys are you're jumping in, saying, hey, let's make this happen,
When you find these men out there and women, and I'm still looking for a woman who was there at D-Day, because they were there, I'd have to say.
Oh, yeah.
They were out there on those ships. I had a surgeon.
Oh, yeah.
So, great stories. But when you just said about isolation, and I'll say to you, last winter I seen it, where some of these elder gentlemen, as soon as the sun doesn't shine and it gets dark at 4 o'clock, they're long winters. I even said something like adopt a veteran. Go visit them.
That's right.
Go call them once.
Great
a week.
idea.
Tell them to come on up to Jezreel and
Great idea.
pack a package.
We'll pick them up.
We'll pick them up.
We'll pick them up. Yeah, we all have vehicles. We'll pick them up.
Pick them up.
And then I take them different places. I do take veterans normally no more than 3. Different places. The Friday mornings I hope we'll catch on more as we move things along. It's interesting because the people from Gateway really. One day we had an interview there. And they were in a back room, and the waitresses and everybody else are seeing it on TV.
Oh, yeah.
It's really fascinating stuff. And I think what you're promoting, and I'd love to do, is get a bunch of different organizations to show up.
Absolutely.
We have access from 8 to 11 o'clock. Between saying good way to introduce some people. Because I really find that one of the things you say, you can sit down and talk to the veterans at a table.
That's right.
Ask them to stand up and talk. That's not their style.
No.
And it's not, and it's tough, and I can understand, yet I've sat at tables with 3 of them, and I don't say a word. I just, believe it or not, I don't say a word. I just like to listen. And I've heard an awful lot. And I think, especially knowing of all the programs that are out there to help them, and they're not in tune with it at all. I almost want to say, if they're Korean War and World War II, they're not in tune with it. And then I think the Vietnam guys are still in that shell.
Absolutely. Absolutely, most of them are. It's interesting, Frank, back in the day when I was in the restaurant business, I had a very dear friend of mine who was a Jewish man who owned a clothing store. A lot of people in the area knew the clothing store, but he was just this quiet little man. And he was a great guy, had a great sense of humor. He loved to impersonate Al Jolson, and he would sing with me, and he'd laugh with me. Just this little guy, right? And I just loved this man. We went to dinner a lot. I had restaurants, and he would call me and say, "Come with me to this other restaurant." But one day he was sick. And I called his wife, Dorothy, and I said, Dorothy, how is Simon doing? She said, well, Jimmy's not doing good, but I said, what's the matter? She said, some kind of a bug or something. I said, maybe I'll come down and cheer him up, because I could always get him laughing. So I went down to his place, and I sat while he was in the bathroom. And I happened to look at a book on the floor, and I picked the book up, and I opened it up, and I was dumbfounded, Frank. It was the story of this sergeant who held off a whole squadron of Germans while his guys got out. He was decorated. He was wounded. And on top of that, he became an interpreter with all the prisoners and everything in the concentration camps. And it was this man. It was this man. And his wife came out and said, "Oh, Jimmy, don't let him see you looking in that." It blew me away. Decorated Jewish man who interpreted, and his whole mindset was, that's behind me. I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to remember it. It's over with, And I thought that man passed away a long time ago. Broke my heart because he was so close to me. I wanted to spend time with him and talk with him, but it just,
Well,
But how many guys are like that? How many people are out there just like that?
Yeah, I wish we had more time here.
Yeah.
We could probably go on for hours. And I want to say that, unfortunately, time runs out on us.
Yes.
And I really appreciate you being here. I almost want to say thank you, but I really want to say to be continued.
Yes.
Because that's where we're going.
Sure.
And I say we're going to go that way. Because regardless of whatever we do, we will do things for these veterans. And whether you call them military people or veterans, I have the same issue that you mentioned, because I deal with the older ones or veterans, but you're absolutely right. I ran into one who says, "I'm not retired," and he's 90 years old, and he goes, "I didn't serve long enough in the military."
There you go.
Exactly
There
what
you
you
go.
said. I wish we had more time, and
Yes.
we will continue it.
Yes.
Hopefully, thank you, Diana.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.